The ultrasound picture lay on our kitchen table like a weapon waiting to go off. My wife, Amanda, stood across from me with one hand resting protectively over her stomach, tears sliding down her cheeks as if she'd already prepared for a battle. I looked from her face down to the black and white image on the table and felt something inside my chest tighten. "I'm 12 weeks pregnant," she said quietly, her voice trembling but determined. "And before you even ask, yes, we're keeping it." Under normal circumstances, I should have felt nothing but joy. For 2 long years, we had been trying for this exact moment. 2 years filled with doctor appointments, ovulation charts, pregnancy tests that always came back negative, and nights where Amanda would lock herself in the bathroom and cry while I stood outside feeling completely useless. We had prayed for this news more times than I could count, but instead of happiness, a cold knot twisted in my stomach. 12 weeks? I repeated slowly, trying to keep my voice calm. "Amanda, I've been working offshore for the last 4 months. I've been home for a total of 6 days during that entire time." Her face flushed instantly, red spreading across her cheeks and neck. "It happened during one of your visits, obviously," she snapped. "Which visit?" I asked. "Does it really matter?" Her voice rose in frustration. "Are you seriously questioning me right now? I'm standing here telling you I'm carrying your child, and the first thing you do is interrogate me?" I looked down again at the ultrasound photo, at the tiny measurements printed in the corner, at the estimated date stamped beside the image. Then I looked back at my wife, at the defensive tension in her eyes, and I said the sentence that would blow our entire life apart. "I want a paternity test." The reaction was instant. Amanda exploded, shouting so loudly it echoed through the house. Her mother, Carol, who had been sitting in the living room listening to everything, rushed into the kitchen like a storm rolling in off the Gulf. "How dare you accuse my daughter like that?" Carol shouted, her voice full of outrage. But then something unexpected happened. Carol stopped mid-rant. Her eyes moved from my face to the ultrasound photo sitting on the table. She studied the date printed in the corner. Then she looked at Amanda, really looked at her. And in that moment, something shifted in her expression. The anger drained away and was replaced by something colder, sharper. "Actually," Carol said slowly, her voice suddenly calm and hard as ice, "I think a paternity test is an excellent idea." Amanda's face turned pale instantly. "Mom—" "Get the test, Amanda," Carol said firmly. "Prove him wrong." The silence that followed filled the entire room like smoke. Amanda stared at her mother in shock. I stared at both of them, my heart pounding as realization crept in. The look on Carol's face wasn't confusion. It wasn't anger either. It was certainty. If you want to know what happened when the results finally came back and why Amanda's own mother ended up turning against her, hit subscribe because what that DNA test revealed destroyed a lot more than just my marriage. My name is James Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 8 years, I've worked as a drilling engineer on offshore oil platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. It's not glamorous work. It's hard, dirty, exhausting labor that most people wouldn't last a week doing. Our rotations usually run 2 weeks on the rig, followed by 1 week back home, though sometimes projects run long and the schedule stretches out even further. Life on the rig means living in a metal structure surrounded by open ocean, breathing diesel fumes and salty air while working 12-hour shifts in brutal heat or pounding storms. But the job pays extremely well. 6 figures a year, enough to buy a decent house in Baton Rouge, enough to build a future and support a family. That had always been my goal: work hard, save money, and create a life worth coming home to. Amanda and I met 7 years ago at a friend's wedding reception. She worked as a pediatric nurse at Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. She was beautiful in a simple way, warm, patient, and incredible with kids. Everything about her made me think she would be an amazing mother someday. I fell for her quickly. 3 years later, we got married in a small ceremony surrounded by family under the blazing Louisiana sun. At the time, it felt like the beginning of the life we had both imagined. For the first few years, things were genuinely good. When I came home from the rig, Amanda would have dinner waiting, music playing softly in the kitchen. We'd spend my week off doing simple things together, watching movies, going out for dinner, visiting her parents across town. Life felt steady, normal. Then we started trying for a baby. What should have been exciting turned into 2 years of emotional exhaustion. Every month brought hope, followed by disappointment. Amanda would take a pregnancy test, stare at it in silence, and then break down crying when the result was negative again. I tried to comfort her, but deep down, I was starting to wonder if something was wrong with me.
Eventually, we went to see specialists, fertility doctors with spotless offices and sympathetic expressions. They ran test after test on both of us: blood work, hormone levels, physical exams. Everything came back normal. Unexplained infertility, the doctor told us with a polite smile. Sometimes these things just take time. Keep trying. So we kept trying. But my work schedule made everything complicated. 2 weeks offshore, 1 week home. Timing had to be perfect. Amanda tracked ovulation with apps and kits. We scheduled intimacy like it was a medical appointment instead of something natural between a married couple. Slowly, the romance drained out of our relationship and was replaced by frustration and pressure. Amanda grew increasingly distant. "Maybe if you had a normal job," she would say during arguments. "Maybe if you were actually home more often, things would be different." "I'm doing this for us," I'd remind her, "for our future." "What future?" she'd fire back angrily. "We can't even have a child." The arguments got longer and more bitter. By the time I left for my most recent assignment, a 4-month drilling project on a deep-water platform far out in the Gulf, our conversations had been reduced to short, tense exchanges. I was halfway through that project, standing on a steel deck surrounded by nothing but ocean and machinery, when Amanda sent me a message that made my stomach sink. "We need to talk when you get home." Every man knows those 6 words are never good news. I called her immediately, but she didn't answer. When I texted back asking what was wrong, she simply replied, "Not over text, when you're home." I still had 3 weeks left before my rotation ended. 3 weeks of lying awake in my narrow bunk at night, listening to the constant rumble of engines while imagining every possible scenario. Maybe she wanted a divorce. Maybe she'd met someone else. Maybe she was just tired of living with a husband who spent half his life out at sea. There was nothing I could do about it from the middle of the Gulf. You can't exactly leave an oil rig because your wife sends a mysterious text. So I kept working and waited. When my shift finally ended, I flew back to Baton Rouge on a humid Friday afternoon. The Louisiana heat hit me the moment I stepped off the plane, thick and heavy like a wet blanket. Amanda picked me up from the airport. She barely spoke during the drive home, both hands gripping the steering wheel as if she needed something to hold on to. "Are you going to tell me what's going on?" I asked after several minutes of silence. "When we get home," she said quietly. We pulled into the driveway of our small 3-bedroom house in a quiet subdivision. The grass had grown too long while I was gone. I made a mental note that I'd have to mow it the next day. As soon as we stepped inside, I noticed another problem. The air in the house felt tense, thick with something unspoken. Amanda's mother, Carol, was sitting on our couch. That was the first real red flag. Carol never dropped by unannounced. "James," she said, standing as I walked in, "good to see you." "Good to see you too, Carol," I replied cautiously. "What's going on?" Amanda didn't answer right away. She walked to the kitchen table, reached into her purse and pulled something out. A small, glossy photograph. She slid it across the table toward me. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, my brain struggled to process the words. After 2 years of trying, after countless disappointments, the thing we had hoped for more than anything had finally happened. But instead of excitement, I felt something cold spread through my chest. I picked up the ultrasound image, the familiar blurry shape in the fetus, medical numbers printed in the corners, and a date: 12 weeks and 4 days. I started calculating automatically. 12 weeks ago, I had been hundreds of miles offshore on the rig. During the last 4 months, I had been home for exactly 6 days total. 3 days in January, 3 days in February. 12 weeks, I repeated slowly. Amanda nodded, still holding her stomach. I know, I couldn't believe it either after everything we've been through. I glanced over at Carol. She was watching me closely, studying my reaction like she already expected trouble. When did you find out? I asked cautiously. 2 weeks ago, Amanda said. I wanted to wait until you were home so I could tell you in person. I placed the ultrasound back on the table carefully. Amanda, I've been gone for 4 months. I know. I was home for 3 days in January and 3 days in February. It must have happened during one of those visits, she said quickly, her tone growing defensive. I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar app. January 14th through the 16th, February 22nd through the 24th. I compared the dates with the information printed on the ultrasound. Technically, the timing could work, barely. But something about the situation felt wrong deep in my gut. Which visit? I asked quietly. What? Which visit did it happen? January or February? Amanda's cheeks flushed again. Does that really matter? Yeah, it does. Why are you interrogating me like this? She snapped. I'm telling you I'm pregnant with your child, and you're acting like a man who's been gone for 4 months and just found out his wife is 12 weeks pregnant. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor as she stood up. How dare you imply something like that? I'm not implying anything, I said calmly. I'm asking for clarification. Carol stepped forward. James, I think you need to calm down. I am calm, I replied, my eyes still on Amanda. I just want to understand the timeline. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. I can't believe this. I thought you'd be happy. I thought you'd finally be excited about something for once. She broke down crying. Carol wrapped an arm around her shoulders and shot me a furious glare. Look what you've done. I stood there, watching the two of them, and suddenly felt like the villain in my own home. I want a paternity test, I said quietly. The room went completely silent. Amanda looked sharply up. What did you just say? I want a paternity test. You son of a... She lunged toward me, but Carol grabbed her arm before she could reach me. How dare you accuse me of cheating, Amanda screamed. I'm carrying your child. Then prove it, I said. I don't have to prove anything. Carol's voice suddenly cut through the shouting. Actually, I think a paternity test is an excellent idea. Both Amanda and I turned to stare at her. Mom, Amanda whispered weakly. Get the test, Amanda, Carol repeated firmly. Prove him wrong. I can't believe you're taking his side. I'm not taking sides, Carol said coldly. I'm asking for the truth. Something passed between them in that moment, some silent exchange only they understood. Amanda's face collapsed in panic. Mom, please. The test, Amanda. The way Carol said it, calm and final, sent a chill straight through me. She knew something. Amanda refused to talk to me for 3 days. She moved into the guest bedroom, wouldn't answer my questions, wouldn't look at me. Carol called me on day 4. We need to talk, she said. Not at your house. Meet me at Brouhaha on Government Street, 1 hour. She hung up before I could respond. Brouhaha was a small coffee shop near LSU. I got there early, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, and waited. Carol arrived exactly on time. She looked older than I remembered, tired. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. I waited. Amanda has a history. A history of what? Carol took a breath. When she was in nursing school, she got pregnant. She was dating a guy named Tyler. Good kid, pre-med student. I said nothing. She told him the baby was his. He proposed. They were planning a wedding. Carol's hands were shaking. Then his mother insisted on a paternity test. She didn't trust Amanda, thought she was a gold digger. My stomach dropped. And the baby wasn't Tyler's. The coffee shop noise faded to white noise. It was her ex-boyfriend's, a guy she'd been seeing on the side. Tyler found out at the same time we did. He left. The ex wanted nothing to do with her.
She had an abortion. Carol's eyes met mine. She swore she'd never do it again. She swore she'd changed. But you don't believe her. I want to believe her, James. She's my daughter. But when I saw that ultrasound date, when I did the math, she shook her head. I've seen this movie before. I drove home in a daze. Amanda was in the kitchen when I walked in. She looked up, face hopeful. James, I got the results. Her face fell. 0%. I'm not the father. The test was wrong. Amanda, stop. They make mistakes. Stop, she started crying. Please, we can work through this. Who's Ryan Broussard? She froze. Your mother told me, 6 months. While I was working to support us, you were sleeping with a married pharmaceutical rep. It wasn't like that.
What was it like? She wiped her face. I was lonely. You were never home. He was there. So it's my fault? I didn't say that. You're saying I drove you into another man's bed because I was working to provide for our future. We didn't have a future, she shouted. We couldn't have kids. The doctor said we couldn't have kids, but apparently you could, just not with me. That landed. She crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Does he know? Yes. And he doesn't want it? He's staying with his wife. So you thought you'd trick me into raising his child. I thought maybe it was yours. I wanted it to be yours. But you knew it might not be. Silence. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my house, James. Please. You have 1 hour to pack a bag. After that, I'm calling the police. She left, went to her mother's house. I sat in the empty house, surrounded by baby books we'd bought, nursery furniture we'd assembled, dreams we'd built. All of it a lie. The divorce was fast. Amanda didn't fight it. She signed the papers, took her things, and moved to Texas to live with her sister. Carol called me the day Amanda left. I'm sorry, James. For what it's worth, you deserved better. Thank you for telling me the truth. Someone had to. We hung up. 6 months later, I got a Facebook message from an unknown account. Tyler Brennan. I heard what happened. I'm sorry, man. If you ever need to talk to someone who's been there, I'm around. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Thanks. I appreciate it. We met for coffee a week later. Tyler was a doctor now. Married, 2 kids, happy. It gets better, he said. It doesn't feel like it will, but it does. How long did it take you? Honestly, a couple years, but I'm glad it happened. I met my wife because of it. I have a life I actually love. He paused. Amanda did you a favor. She showed you who she was before you had kids with her, before you were locked in forever. Doesn't feel like a favor. It will eventually. He was right. A year later, I met someone new. Her name was Rachel. She was a teacher, honest, kind, nothing like Amanda. We took it slow. I told her everything. She didn't run. I'm not her, Rachel said simply, and you're not the man you were when you were with her. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony, just family. And when Rachel got pregnant, when we saw that ultrasound, when we heard that heartbeat, I felt something I never felt with Amanda. Peace. I never heard from Amanda again. Carol sends Christmas cards, updates me occasionally. Amanda had the baby, a boy, raised him alone in Texas. Ryan Broussard's wife found out about the affair. She left him. He pays child support but has no relationship with the kid. Amanda works as a nurse, lives in a small apartment, struggles. Carol says she's changed, that she regrets everything. Maybe she has. Maybe she does. But it's not my problem anymore. The thing about betrayal is it teaches you something valuable. It teaches you that trust isn't something you give freely. It's something you earn. Amanda wanted me to trust her blindly, to accept her word without question. But blind trust isn't love. It's stupidity. Real love asks hard questions. Real love demands honesty. And when someone can't give you that, real love walks away. I still work on the rigs, still spend 2 weeks offshore, 1 week home. But now when I come home, Rachel's waiting. Our son,
Our actual son runs to the door yelling, "Daddy!" And I know without a doubt that he's mine. Not because of a DNA test, because I was there, because I know the timeline, because there's no question, no doubt, no shadow, just truth. If this story hit home, comment "trust but verify." If you've ever been lied to, if you've ever had someone try to trap you, if you've ever had the courage to ask the hard questions, this one's for you. Hit subscribe for more stories about the power of knowing the truth, because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the best thing that could have happened. You just don't know it.